has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
This is WFO Radio.
WFO Radio is back following the Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gator Nationals, the 53rd edition. It was wet and it was wild. We've got the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, going to be joining me, Joe Costello, on the show for a full recap debrief session. It is going to be great. You're also going to hear exclusive audio from the winner's circle with Smoke. Tony Stewart's first win in the National Hot Rod Association, joining Jack Roush and Joe Gibbs and Raymond Beadle as winners in the NHRA and in NASCAR. There's one other as well. And it's amazing stuff. What a big win. You're going to hear from Smoke just seconds from now. I want to remind everybody to share the show. This is going to be huge. And we've got big stuff coming up tomorrow as well as we connect with Dallas Glenn, the Pro Stock winner from the Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gator Nationals. He had Hagan, Dallas Glenn, of course, Karen Stover was unbelievably dominant, and then Trip Tatum. What a final round in Top Fuel. That was spectacular. Only one session of qualifying. That was the issue. One session of qualifying because of the rain, and some big cars did not qualify. Sean Langdon, Leah, Antron, all DNQ. That opened the door for a lot of people to get in there. Lex June qualified, right? Doug Foley goes to the final round, but Trip Tatum with that amazing car that they built, and obviously the Laganas and everybody's kind of in on that deal. And Trip is now a winner in NHRA Camping World Series drag racing. That is just awesome. It was a great event. We're going to break it all down. But first, I got to tell you about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO. And I already told you about FTI Performance. Appreciate Paul Lee jumping on board. They're located in DeLand, Florida, FTI. And it was just great stuff. But not just FTI, talking about Total Seal piston rings, the leader in ring seal technology, TotalSeal.com. Go to the website. You can order rings. You can order one ring, many different applications from Pro Stock to Stock Eliminator. They even do rings for Formula One teams. Just can't tell you which. TotalSeal.com. And of course, subscribe to the podcast, Hidden Horsepower. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Start your education at full speed. The next generation of machinists are coming up through Samtech. Why not you? Maybe you're a veteran. They're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. Go to samtech.edu today. Check it out. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Might be hearing a little bit more from them real soon. FrankHawley.com, where you can drive a dragster. You can participate in the dragster adventure. You can get your top alcohol funny car license. These things all are happening at Frank Hawley. I was hanging out with Frank out at the track. It was very cool. FrankHawley.com. And then there's Marvin Rodak. RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com, special blends like the Leverage Racing Joe Morrison blend, the WFO Radio blend, and exotic coffee from all around the world. 817-924-6821, and then FTI Performance. And we'll be announcing a very new sponsor very, very soon, plus our Patreons. I'll tell you about them later. But now, let's go out to the winner's circle and see this interview with NHRA's newest winning team owner, Tony Stewart, a USAC champion, Triple Crown champ, an IndyCar champion, a NASCAR champion, and now a winning NHRA team owner. I don't think since AJ Foyt we have had someone be able to cross the different genre of motorsports so successfully as Tony Stewart. Let's check out the interview. I sure hope it works. Here's Tony Stewart in the winner's circle. Here was Smoke, first win, 2 races in. Come on, that's pretty good. 3 races in. How you feel?
It's an awesome day. I mean, and of all places, the Gator Nationals, huge, such a historic event. The state of Florida's been pretty good to me. I've won some pretty cool races here, but never one like the Gator Nationals. So to get our first win here is awesome. Pretty cool day all around.
The intensity of drag racing, like you've been so cool in that, like, I don't want to get in the way. I'm just learning the deal, right? But it's been an accelerated learning curve. Now you got this Wally. Like, talk about that, the build to a victory.
Well, and it is an accelerated learning curve.
Woo! Yeah.
When you get a driver like that, you're going to learn really quick, by the way. This team is, especially Matt's team, I mean, they're an established team through DSR, and Dickie and Stretch and Alex and the entire team, they do an awesome job. It's turnkey, so we expect big things out of them. And we've got some work to do on Leah's side, but it's a totally different atmosphere. It's a startup team, totally new guys, totally new group of people gelling together. But we've got two awesome groups and teams that I'm excited about to come to Gainesville and win a race with Matt here. The best part is, for TSR to get their first win, Matt, Dickie, and a bunch of the guys to get their first Gator Nationals win.
He was so happy.
And then we kind of snuck in a cherry on top out west in Phoenix with Chase Briscoe winning his first Cup race. So just an unbelievable day, and so excited to be a part of NHRA. The atmosphere, the people, the officials, I mean, everybody, there's everything about it that I love and that I've missed in racing for a long time. So it's great to be a part of this, and to go through the pit area on our way back to take photos here. All the teams coming out and saying congrats as we were riding by. That's the stuff that means a lot when your peers appreciate what
the crowd made a lot of noise. They were super excited to be here for this one.
Yeah, it's a tough weekend for the fans too. I mean, to have all the rain.
You got a few trophies, but this is the first one, so you get to hang on to it.
I like these.
Look at that.
I like these.
Look
This
at that.
is awesome. It's,
Wally.
I cannot wait to get this back to the shop. So when Matt broke the record at Phoenix, we took the qualifying hat and we both signed it. We put TSR's first quick time and record, and put that in the trophy case. There's a lot of dirt track trophies in that shop, and so now to bring a blue hat back there and a Wally, it's awesome to start another chapter with the organization. Just really good people. I would love to take the credit. I can't take any of the credit other than I just try to put the pieces in place for these guys and let them do what they do best.
Great job.
Thank you.
Now they're taking it away. You gave it to them, and they took it away.
This is motorsports. They give it, then they take it away. That's how it works here.
Congratulations. Way to go. Way to go. There we go. Tony Stewart receives his first Wally on WFO. Matt Hagan video bombs it. That was history right there. If that doesn't make you want to subscribe, I don't know what will. Maybe this will. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us now out there at Gainesville Raceway. What's up, AR? How are you?
Just hanging out, getting ready to head down to Daytona for a couple of days for my spring break before the season kicks in high gear and goes crazy. I was listening to the interview. I don't know if he mentioned it to you. Did Tony tell you how he found out that he won in Phoenix?
He referenced that he just had found out. Why don't you tell the story?
Well, after he won the funny car race, a few minutes after, he got a text message from Rick Hendrick that said, "Hey, bud, congratulations on the win." And he thought, well, that's cool. Mr. H is keeping track of my drag race and stuff, even though his car, Greg Anderson, was out early in the day. And then he said about 3 minutes later, he got another text from Rick that said, "Hey, congratulations. I just heard you won funny car in Gainesville." And he went, "Well, what? Did I win Phoenix too?" And then he had to go online on his phone and look it up. That's how he heard about it. He's like, got the first congratulatory text and soon, here I am. This must be it. And didn't realize that Rick was telling him he'd also won on the other side of the country.
That's awesome. And, obviously the audio could have been a little bit better, but that's one of those impromptu iPhone interviews. And we had super gas going out on track. We were trying to get everybody a time run before the Monday Gator Nationals, which you were out there. We'll talk about the results. But to me, Hagan busting in, it's Wally time. Presenting Tony with the Wally, like that's the moment. And you can tell, Alan, this guy genuinely loves what's happening in drag racing, a sport that he kind of admired from afar for a long time. And now he is here. And just to have a moment like that for him, I was real happy. Now, don't get me wrong. The final round was a tough emotional decision with Jim Head on the other side of the racetrack and all that team had been through as well. And in those moments, you just sit back and let the racing gods decide.
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't think that, even Tony wouldn't have been too upset if Blake Alexander had won that race, the first time that they'd been back after the highway crash and losing Dylan last year. But Matt Hagan's car was just simply too strong. And the weekend when only had one qualifying shot to get after it. But then the track and weather conditions were great, and that's kind of Dickie Venables. That's kind of his comfort zone, right? When it's hold my beer and watch this time. So they had a great car and ran through the field. Robert going home for the first time this year without the trophy, but I think that. I think it's kind of a harbinger of things to come. We've seen Matt and Robert going head to head for years. I think they're going to have some more company in there, even though, this was kind of a wacky weekend with one shot qualifying and then have at it. But we're off to a pretty good start this year.
And since we're talking funny car, obviously, great to have, Smoke get the first win. But I couldn't help but think of Dickie and Dickie Venables. And, his dad recently passed, and to go out there and get a victory. And you could see he was very emotional. This guy is, I don't know what to call him, right? Like a gentle giant, in that he is seems to be beloved by everyone he has ever encountered. He's so willing to give information and to educate. And he's built this chemistry with the guys, and they go to war for him, and they got the win. And it was just great to see all of that come together. A very emotional, very positive win.
It was. And, Dickie's the kind of guy that, doesn't yell and scream, doesn't just kind of lets his car do the talking for him. And as you said, always willing to help somebody out. I've been, a few times when I've been wandering around, and he'll be coming out of some crew chief's trailer or from somebody else's trailer. And, go in and go, hey, what was he doing here? And he goes, well, we had a question about something, and he came over to look at my data, look at my stuff, and try to help me out. And that's just always been him. And I think that, goes back to racing with his dad. Ron Tobler is exactly the same way. I don't believe anybody has ever come to Ron Tobler and said, hey man, I could use some help, and been told no. And I think that, that's just the way when they came into the sport, it was presented to them, and they're keeping up that tradition.
Exactly. Everybody weighing in, saying congratulations to Tony. Steve says rain robbed the spotlight of the Top Fuel call out. Yeah, well, Ma Nature, take it up with Ma Nature, right? It was a bummer, definitely. The call out, we'll talk about it. But it was the first round was great, and the call out was great, and that's all we got to see. And we'll see the rest down the road somewhere.
Yeah, it was just the whole circumstances. All the rain that we had the first 3 days, and then the fact that the first round of the call out was the first time that anybody had been on the racetrack. And when you go up there pressing to win because there's a lot of money on the line, and then you don't make it down the track, and that ends up being the only qualifying session. And then we see results of that on the other side with, 3 of our big name players that didn't qualify, and just the circumstances. I think I don't think there's a whole lot of doubt that Antron and Leah, if they had gone up there with the attitude, we just need to slide this thing down the racetrack, run 385 and get qualified, that they would have been on the outside of the field. But when you go up there knowing there's a lot of money on the line, I need to beat whoever's in the other lane. And they didn't think at the time that it was going to be the only qualifying session. The thought process was they were going to get 2. So, you'd still have a chance to come back and get in the field, even if it didn't work. And then the track ended up getting so cold that we couldn't run. And it kind of is what it is, And the only reason I didn't mention Sean Langdon in that is because his car broke a rear end. So no matter what attitude they'd gone up there with, if the rear end broke, they weren't going down the racetrack. If they didn't get the second qualifying run, they weren't going to have a shot at it. And that's exactly what happened. But, tough weekend for those 3. On the other side of the coin, a couple of names got in the field. Anytime Krista Baldwin comes out and makes it in the field, you feel happy for her, no matter who is the number 17 person that got bumped out. But she's been, her whole life, watching her father do this, dreaming. And she's so energetic and so, happy to be there that, nobody wants to see her not qualify, no matter who ends up being number 17. So you end up with, just kind of mixed emotions on some of that stuff and that's just the way it is. Lex June, he and Gerda pour their heart and soul into their race car. And if they drag the thing all the way down here and don't qualify, that is devastating for them, because just the qualifying money, the first round money, is something that helps keep them in business. If they come down here and end up with nothing, it's, again, just devastating to their team. So while you hate it for Leo, while you hate it for Antron, right? You kind of go, you can see the positive side of it for the other teams that really, really needed to get into the field. I've said 1,000 times, right? Give us good weather and we'll take it from there. And this weekend, we didn't have the benefit of good weather until Sunday. And Sunday was a heck of a race. I just wish we'd have had 3 days of Sunday instead of just Sunday.
I was listening to you on NHRA.TV on the ride home. And yeah, absolutely. It was, Sunday, Monday were beautiful, perfect. If we could have had that. But somebody just put in the chat section, the fans. Wow, the Gainesville Raceway fans. I don't like to compare these fans versus those fans, etc. But what we can definitely say is that the people who are fans who did go to Gainesville are tough and prepared and drag racing intense, because they braved rain, they braved getting stuck in the parking lot, they braved cold. Like, there was multifaceted challenges for the fans, and they stuck it out. And come time to actually race, they were there in force on Saturday. Like, when we finally went, like, this is what people who didn't see it, check this out. I'm trying to bring that up. It was just brutal out there. Poor Phil Burgess. Look at that. That's Roger Richards trying to push Phil Burgess. Like, they got stuck immediately. Cars were getting stuck. It was some of the most intense rain that I had driven through, and that looks much better than it actually was. And the fans, they were all there, ready to watch racing when the time came.
Well, part of that, I think, is because this is such a destination race. Gainesville is not the biggest city in the world. And so the fans come to Gainesville specifically for the race. It's, a vast majority, I think, of the fans that come to Gainesville for the Gator Nationals travel to get here. As opposed to, when we're in Houston, when we're in Dallas, the vast majority of the fans are local fans that are coming there because, the circus is in town, so to speak. But that's one of the reasons, when everybody was saying Monday, Tuesday leading into the race, NHRA should just pull the plug right now. It's going to be miserable. It's going to be a disaster. That you can't do that, because all of these fans that have, whether they've driven, whether they've flown, whether they've taken vacation, whether they have made plans to be in Gainesville for the race, and you have to try to put the race on for them if at all possible. And, they were here, they came out as soon as the rain stopped falling. And, we put on a great show on Sunday for them. Saturday, Saturday was what it was, but we got cars down the racetrack. We saw some tremendous runs, at least. The people that came out on Saturday when it was raining in the morning, and then watch the safety safari run up and down. I don't think I don't know if you know this, Joe. They burned through 2 complete sets of tires on the tractors just on Saturday.
Wow, I did not know that.
And normally, each tractor have 3 sets for the weekend. You'll change them a time or 2 throughout the course of the weekend. But just on Saturday, they burned through 2 sets of tires on the tractors, because once the rain stopped, they had to scrape the track completely bare all the way to the finish line and then build a new racing surface for it. The safety safari normally comes in 2 days or 3 days early and does all that work before we start racing on Thursday or Friday. And this time they had to start from scratch. They had done all the work, and then the rain just ruined it all. When you get it all set, and if a rain shower comes through, if it rains overnight, as a general rule, you don't have to do a whole lot, right? Get it dried out and it'll clean up pretty quick. But with the intense rain that we had for so many days, and I described it as delamination. It basically delaminated the rubber from the racetrack, and you can't just go in there and dry off and go, okay, we're good to go, because you have to take all of that rubber that's there off, and then you have to start completely all over again. And they basically got a couple of days normally worth of work done in about 5 or 6 hours. And, I had a fan email or two that said, the same, well, the track was dry at, 12:30. Why weren't we racing then? Because it needs to be a lot more than dry before you fire top fuel cars at it. But the safety safari gave them a great racetrack. We saw tremendous numbers out there, right? 337 miles an hour. You ain't doing that on an iffy racetrack. So the safety safari gave them a great racetrack to get out there. And then it just ended up being too cold. And as has been discovered over the years, there's track temp is such a big part of this. But the crew chiefs, basically en masse have come to NHRA and said, we cannot run on a track that's colder than 70 degrees. We just don't feel like it's productive. We don't feel like it's safe. We don't feel like it's a good idea. Well, once the sun goes down and as cold as it was, the front went through all the stuff and it was just flat cold. the racetrack ended up being 62, 63 degrees. Even the pro stock motorcycle contingent in the middle of a session. And it's also a deal where, if you got cars going down the track, you're putting heat in the track will retain some heat. Just because it gets cold doesn't mean you necessarily have to call a timeout. But when Michael Phillips had his issue and it was about a 20-minute cleanup out there, now the track sits there with nothing on it, and then the track loses its core heat. And, even the motorcycle contingent got together and said, look, we don't feel comfortable doing this. There were a couple dissenters, but the vast majority of them said, we don't feel comfortable doing this. So they set their field on points. And it was the same thing with the pro mods. We've seen what happens with pro mods when the track is too cold. And if we had been able to just keep marching forward, right? If we roll through all the pro stock machines, and then if we roll the pro mods out and we send them down the racetrack, the track is going to retain some heat. But once you give it a chance to basically lose that core heat, there's just nothing you can do about it. And that's why we started late on Sunday as well, because it was so cold in the morning. We just had to wait until the sun had warmed the track up to the point that, we had what was deemed to be a safe raceable surface.
Yes. And it just goes to show that we need to continue with the educational process. You touched on a few things. I received many, many calls on Tuesday. Let me know when they cancel it so that I can cancel. Like, hey man, they're never going to do that. That's not how it works unless it's like a hurricane coming at a city and they want to protect our racers from being there for destruction. But if it's just rain, they're not going to do it, because inevitably this is Florida, guys, and it will clear up. And it did clear up. We didn't get the full race in, but we got 2 great days of racing. And then those who hung out on Monday, they got to see some special stuff too. Before we move on from Funny Car completely, and we kind of just talk, a couple of things happened out there I thought was interesting. Like just we had red lights, like Clay red lighted and Cruz red lighted. I just went on nothing, which was crazy. And I feel like maybe just showing the intensity of the Gator Nationals. Chad Green goes to the semifinal, had his best race day. The Blake Alexander story. When there's a negative story, there's usually a positive story there too. Someone takes advantage of it. Even Terry Haddock, got to the second round, unfortunately put some oil on the starting line, didn't get to attempt the second round, but people need to see those underdogs do well here and there. And this was a race for underdogs.
And I think that's also, it's a big part of what keeps the underdogs coming back, that, right, on any given day, you can win a round or a couple of rounds or make some noise out there, send one of the pros home. There's a number of the teams out there that don't have big budgets, don't have the latest, greatest parts, don't have all the fancy stuff, don't have 87 sets of tires that they can pick the right one that's, the 1/4 inch circumference difference, because that makes a difference. But those teams come out there understanding when they roll through the gate, a Wally is probably a miracle, but being able to send home one of the regular touring cars is what they live for and what keeps them going and what keeps them coming out here. And we certainly need those teams to keep coming out here and keep trying to do that. And it just makes for a great story when, somebody that's doing that, that's just scraping along, getting by, not, the fully financed, full tilt, full-time, 18 full-time guys, can come out here and knock off one of the big teams. It's one of the things about NHRA that just, makes it special. There are a lot of fans that come out here and root for the underdogs.
So as bad as it was for Leah and Sean and Antron, there were good things that came out of it. Like Antron did a great job up in the booth with you. He was his typical self and big personality. I know he hated being there, but we learned a little bit about that. And, Trip Tatum versus Doug Foley in the final round. Trip gets through Lex. Trip takes down Billy. Billy got through Austin. Trip ends the Mike Salinas reign of terror, which went 6 rounds. Really good. And then the final round, missed the tree, said the sun was in his eyes, as was the case with everybody for the most part. Doug Foley missed the tree as well. But that car is on rails. I mentioned Clay Millican getting around Brittany, Clay Millican going red to Doug Foley, and then Doug taking out Justin Ashley, who went up in smoke. Got to give Justin a shout out for flying the Ukraine on the front wing. I thought that was great. He's under no obligation to do that, to send a message out to the world that he thinks that that's of importance, and he did. And I know Phillips was behind it too. But in the end, it's 2 part-time low buck teams, Doug Foley and Trip Tatum. That's a signal. It's a virtue signaling. 1, you can just buy the best parts and have the right people assemble them, and you got a shot to win. On the 30th anniversary of Bernstein's 300, Alan, you know, how much clandestine development and research went into that feat. That's not what Top Fuel drag racing is anymore. Now, a guy like Trip Tatum can get together with Bobby Lagana, and Bobby could say, this, and this. Go buy it. We'll put it together, and you'll have a car that can compete with the right people turning the knobs on it. And he did. I can't see how that's bad for the sport and bringing new people in, what we saw this weekend.
No, I agree. And I think, you know, that Steve Torrence is the one that led that brigade starting about 5 or 6 years ago, because, you know, everybody for a number of years, you know, it was like, well, if you're not Coletta and you're not Force and you're not DSR, do you really have a chance? You know, the super teams, they get so much information, they get so much sponsor money, they get so much, you know, they do their own manufacturing. Maybe they're making secret parts, and, you know, a single car team can't compete. Well, Torrence did, and Torrence showed everybody the way. You know, you can buy a chassis. You can buy engines. You can buy clutch parts. You don't have to make anything. Steve Torrence doesn't manufacture anything. They buy their stuff, and they've got really smart people that are putting it together, and they found a combination that works. And the fact that they're willing to share that, I think, is even better, because like you said, you know, Trip Tatum basically went to Capco and said, I want a Top Fuel car. And they said, okay, we will put it together. Here's going to be the parts list. Here's going to be the bill. And when they get done, you have what is in essence a Capco clone. And I don't know, you know, I know you saw it. I don't know how many of the fans saw in the final round, how many Capco folks were up on the starting line.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they're part of this, even though, you know, they're there specifically to make sure either Steve or Billy gets in the winner's circle. But once that wasn't going to happen, all of a sudden, it's like, look, these are guys that we helped. Do you need anything? Do you need some guidance? Do you need whatever? And they were on the starting line, and they were genuinely happy that somebody they helped get started in the business is now having success in the business.
And Stewie is over there. John Stewart, Donnie Bender is over there. Like all these guys who are really knowledgeable, talented Nitro guys who don't want to be out there every single race are on board. And in many ways, I don't want to call it a team final, but Aaron Brooks is kind of part of that orbit as well, going around helping people who need help. They're like the A-team of Nitro, helping people that need help. And nobody gets that reference, but it was a TV show.
I got it.
You got it. You and I get it because we're the similar generation. But they had won before the final. Of course, Doug wanted to win and Tripp wanted to win, but that concept, that attitude of the Dominic Laganas of the world and the Aaron Brooks of the world, like we're going to try to help people who need help and elevate them. Honestly, I don't think I've seen Bobby Lagana much more excited than that. Like that was as excited as it gets, like that car. And Tripp has driven the Ninja. Tripp has been around a long time. People are asking, like, who's Trip Tatum? Tripp has been out there for a long time and just under the surface, behind the scenes, ran an A-fueler, helping out, observing, just part of the deal, putting the chess pieces on the board. And I'm real happy to see this guy score a win. He deserves it. Like he did it the right way. Quiet guy. I don't know how much you've, hung out with Tripp, but a quiet guy, very unassuming, keeps to himself. And now he's going to have to learn how to do interviews and talk because he's got a car that can win any race it shows up at.
Yeah. And you know what Tripp did yesterday?
What's that? Okay, I saw him at the track, like loading up and driving, probably.
Drove the semi home.
Wow. How great is that? Like, that's what drag racing is. Especially for the people who, and no offense to the guys that go and catch the private plane the second they get knocked out of a race somewhere, right? Like, oh, we're out, let's go. Tripp drove his rig home himself. And I'm sure that, like, what a feeling that must be, Alan. Like, rolling out, built this team, paid for it all, won the race, driving home. Burp, burp. Like, wow, and drag racing does that.
Yeah, and there are a number of guys that go as fast as their pocketbook will let them, right? And a win at the Gator Nationals means just as much to somebody whether they're running in Super Comp or Stock Eliminator as it does in Top Fuel. And I really think that, Tripp, from following his dad to the races all those years and kind of, working his way up the ladder, feels the same way. It's like, what do? Well, you load the race car on the trailer, you drive the pickup to the track, you do what you're going to do. And he's been able to increase his performance based on his financial situation. But he's still a guy that I'm just driving my truck to the racetrack so I can go race my car with my friends on the weekend and then when loading the car in the trailer and driving my truck home.
Simple as that. Yeah. No, and we're going to have Tripp on the show at some point before we get to Vegas. Just so happy for those guys. And you were out there on Monday and I was out there on Monday. I went over and swung by and saw them and just, Kool-Aid smiles for everybody they accomplished. And Doug Foley should be very proud also. And I'm sure he is. He said that they're trying to put together a full season and that he's done like picking, 11 races and they're all over that. He's going to go until he can't go anymore. And somebody out there should help him out with a little money. And it just goes to show, when 21 teams show up, Alan, anything can happen, even with with or without Mon Nature.
And, Doug certainly did himself a lot of good this weekend in the sponsor hunt, because he can now go back to somebody and say, look, here's how much I was on TV last weekend. Here's what I'm capable of doing. I just need enough budget to keep doing it. And, I think, a late round finish goes a long way. The team's morale is up. If you go out to the racetrack and, you're just not doing what you're supposed to do, or you're not getting any results, or you're not, at some point you kind of get tired of beating your head against the wall. When you have a day, though, where you are going rounds, where you are knocking off some of the more highly touted cars, and you make it to a final round, especially at one of the big races, right? I mean, the Gator National, Winter Nationals, Gator Nationals, Summer Nationals, World Finals, I think was the ultimate big four. And to make that happen, that just puts everybody back in it. Now we're seeing our hard work pay off. Now we're motivated to go do more hard work because we know we are capable of getting a result. We're not just putting in all this work and not having anything to show for it.
Right. Absolutely. And no, it was a great race. Again, the only issue, the weather, but we cannot control that. Let's move over to Pro Stock, where Aaron Stanfield was the number one qualifier, ran down in the 40s. The big shock, Erica running the quickest ET ever in the history of Pro Stock, but coming up short on a 002 to Bo Butner. She was late. He was near perfect. He runs a 51.3. She runs 45 dead. And finally, after several years and, necessary perfect weather, I don't know what you would call it. Was it perfect? Was it better than perfect? Was it unseen ever before weather? But the EFI combination has surpassed the carbureted combination.
Well, the highest density altitude that I saw all day was 63 feet. For the vast majority of the day, it was 500, 800 below sea level. And anybody that does anything with engines understands when you're working with a correction factor, when you're always correcting back to sea level, you have what's known as raw power, what the engine is actually making. And then you correct because you've got to know what your engine's doing. If you dyno on a day when it's 65 degrees and not much humidity, and then you dyno on a day when it's 85 degrees and there's a lot of humidity, the raw power that your engine is going to make is going to be very different. So you have to have something to correct back to. There has to be an equation to go, okay, this is what this means when you figure in all the variables. And this was a rare day that the raw power that you had was actually more than what you figure back to, because normally you figure back to what would be optimum conditions, right? Sea level, high baro, low humidity, cool temperature, dense air, which is more oxygen rich, which makes more power. And this was one of those days when, if you always the correction factor on a dyno is, 103, 105, 107, 108, which means 3, 4, or 5% horsepower is your correction. If you've got an engine that makes 1,000 horsepower and your correction factor is 105, you're making 5% less horsepower. It's just simple. The raw number is 5% less than the optimal number. Well, on a day like this, the raw number would actually have been, 1,030 instead of, 950. And so that's what the Pro Stock teams were dealing with, and they dealt with it very well. A lot of drivers ran their career best. If you didn't this weekend, you screwed up somewhere. When we started seeing runs that were dipping into the top 10 all time, which were almost all carbureted runs, then it was like, okay, game on. And, when Erica dropped the hammer with that 45-0 and set the national record, the new national record now will be 45-0. And that legitimately could stand for 3 or 4 years if we don't see weather like this again, someplace like Reading, one of those magical places that just turns into Pro Stock Disneyland. That record could stand for a long time. And one of the things I've always liked about Erica, and I've known her a long time, is she will tell it like it is.
Yep.
When Amanda talked to her at the top end and said, you just made the quickest run in history and lost the race. And Erica said, I suck. I let my guys down. I didn't do my job. This one's on me. It's my fault. And, I appreciate the fact that she's willing to stand up like that and not make an excuse, right? Not, I kind of this or that or something. She just stood up and said, I'm the one that messed this up. And I hate the fact that everybody else did their job and I let them down. And I find, I've got a lot of respect for somebody that'll stand up and do that.
Yeah, she owned it. Well, that's what you got to do. She's got nothing to prove to anyone anymore. Like Erica's a 4-time champ. She could be a 5-time champ if things had gone a little different. Nothing. When you get to a point where you have nothing to prove, it's okay to just own your mistakes because nobody is perfect, right? Okay, that one she lost to Bo. And he's 002, by the way. He did his job also. There was a couple of thou on either end of the deal. If she's 60 or if he's 12, it goes the other direction. Sometimes you lose, and that's one, and she'll get more intense because of it. But in the end, it's Dallas Glenn. Dallas Glenn gets through Aaron Stanfield, which, I don't want to say that was surprising, but Aaron Stanfield had a really quick and fast car. They backed up in the second round. Dallas Glenn gets through Roger Brogdon. Dallas Glenn races Kid Chaos in the final round. Kyle got there going through Fernando Quadra, Camry Caruso, and Mason McGahey. Mason, he was money on the tree, right, Alan? What was he? He was
3 and then perfect.
Right. Unbelievable. Going to the semis, but goes to 84 against Kid Chaos. And I can understand why. Flirting with that, the red light, right? Like, oh my gosh, trip zip and 003. What am I going to do? And missed it on that one. Kid Chaos goes to the final round, and it's Dallas versus Kyle. Kyle left first by a little bit, but got outran by a little bit, and so Dallas Glenn wins his 5th race. We're going to hear from Dallas Glenn later on this week. In fact, tomorrow, you're going to hear an interview with Dallas Glenn. It will be pre-recorded, guys, so don't be commenting because I won't be here. But Dallas will be along with me, and we're going to be talking about DG. This guy is, Alan, real as it gets. Dallas Glenn, awesome pro stock racer. I'm so happy and proud about where the sport is right now because of a guy like Dallas Glenn, pure racer, not a marketing experiment, not anything other than a hands-on, passionate, worked his way through the normal ranks of racing to the highest level of what most bracket racers want to be, pro stock, and now he is excelling. It's awesome. He may not go on to win the championship, or maybe he will, but he's going to have a fan base of diehard racers, no doubt.
Well, he should. He's pro stock for the longest time was, the old gray-haired rich guys club. And in the last 5 years, it has really turned around. The number of guys that are out there that are, 20s or 30s or even 40s is now they've got the gray-haired team way outnumbered. And there's a lot of enthusiasm. And I think when you get younger drivers, you attract younger fans, and that's good for the class. And hopefully attracting the younger fans will attract some more sponsors and help some more people potentially get out there. I think you look at somebody like Camry Caruso, who has started in essence from scratch, right? They're not getting their engines from the big three. They're not, really sharing information or doing anything with any. They've got Jim Yates over there, who's got a wealth of knowledge in the category. They've got decent horsepower. She is still learning the craft, but that is another thing that, look, there is a way to do this now without having to go out and spend $5 million to open your own engine R&D facility. And for years, if you wanted to win, the only way to do that was to build your own engines. And, you could come out and compete, you could come out and show up, you could come out and qualify, but you couldn't win if you didn't have your own engine facility to make things happen. So the fact that now you can come out here and be competitive and win races, and there's different ways to do it. I think that has attracted a lot of people back into the sport, and I hope it'll continue to do so.
And I had a great conversation with Eric Latino on the starting line, and everybody knows that name because he's run Pro Mod considerably over the years. Eric from north of the border, super nice guy, as is the case with seemingly all Canadians. But he owns Titan Racing Engines, which was formerly, Gray Racing Engines. And he told me on the starting line that, they had the 4 previous engines, but now they're building their inventory, and they've also acquired another car. And hopefully it's okay for me to say this. I'm sure it is. He says he wants to drive it. He's going to try to drive it later on, and they're getting it updated, right? And Justin Elks is doing the updates. And so Eric Latino is going to try to run a little pro stock. But really, though, that car is going to be available to somebody who wants to do what we're talking about. It's like there is going to be a potential championship caliber car, or certainly a top 10 caliber car with top 10 caliber power available for someone to partner with and get out there. So the big 3 is soon to be the big 4: KB, Elite, Titan, and then, Southwest.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. Like, someone has dived in now, and I told Eric, because he's, they run 5s in Pro Mod, right? It's different in Pro Stock. You're busy in the cockpit. And he said, like, he really loved swapping feet back in the day, and he loved being the reason in Pro Mod. And now it's a little bit different. They're so fast. He's excited about Pro Stock, making a couple of hits. Things are happening in Pro Stock, and it's just super excited. So I can't wait to see what happens with this Titan Racing Engine.
And good, welcome on board. We'll take all that we can get. And if he wants to come out and race, I think that's great. If he's going to have a car that would be available, if somebody that, either wants to, and I don't know, if it's, somebody that wants to get a license, or somebody that wants to try it, or if he's just going to say, look, this is a championship caliber car, this, experienced drivers only. But if you want to come out and run 2 or 3 races, then, get in touch with me and let's see what we can do. But I just think, the more the merrier. Just keep bringing them. I want to see, love Pro Stock since I was a kid, because it was gas and carburetors. And, the car that I drove, that I was trying to hot rod on the weekends and that I was trying to race, was gas and carburetors. So that was something that, the spectacle of the nitro cars is awesome, but the Pro Stock cars was something that I could relate to when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. And I have never quit being a fan of Pro Stock for all those years. So, the more the merrier. Just come on in.
Exactly. Congratulations to Dallas Glenn. Dallas going to be on the show tomorrow, 12 noon, 1 o'clock, something like that, as we check in with the Camping World Series winners, the Gator Nationals. All right, so I went to NHRA.com to bring up the ladder for Pro Stock Motorcycle. It is not available. It is blank. But do we really need the ladder? Karen Stouffer, greatest single event of her career, certainly, maybe of any career. Shocking the national record by giant margins, breaking through a barrier milestone from the 70s to the 60s, going on and winning the race. And I don't know, I'm guessing that the final round was the quickest ever side-by-side Pro Stock motorcycle race against Angie, her 72 versus Karen's 70. Wow, that was a spectacular Pro Stock motorcycle outing.
Well, considering the national record when we came in was 6.720, and the slowest run that Karen made was 6.721, I'd say she had a pretty good day. And since she was the only one who outran the record, there were a number of people that put up personal bests, but she was the only one that outran the record. 4 of the top 5 time slips in the history of NHRA are Karen Stouffer's, all from Sunday, with no qualifying. Tim Kalungian took that thing up to the starting line, crew chief, first round Sunday, having not made a run, having not done a burnout, having not on this racetrack in these conditions, and went, well, let's see what happens, and promptly ran the quickest run in the history of the sport. And then came back in the second round and ran even quicker.
Yeah.
And then came back in the semis. It slowed down a little bit, but it was still the 3rd quickest or the 4th quickest run all time. And then in the final, as you said, she ran the 670. So no, that bike was dominant. And what will happen now when we rock on down the road and get into, not such Disneyland conditions, but I also, one of the real wild cards in the whole mess was, and I can't help but wonder, if Matt had the Buell, how fast could he have gone?
Right.
206, 207, 200, because that bike has always run stupid speed. Both of the Vance and Hines bikes were out very early. Never really made a clean run. Eddie got away with one in round number 1 and then lost in round 2. Angel, bike didn't get up cleanly off the starting line. She ended up having to close the throttle and got beat in round 1. Matt with his new Suzuki was out in round 1. So it's curious to me, if we had had some qualifying and if everybody had been a little bit more in their comfort zone when they came up for round 1, would Karen have been the only one in that neighborhood? And I honestly believe the answer to that is no. I think that, they hit it right out of the box, and God bless them. But I think given 2 or 3 runs, some of the other bikes would have probably been in the performance neighborhood that Karen was. Would they have outrun her? I couldn't tell you that, but I think that, just the fact that there was no practice and no qualifying, and some of the really highly touted teams, the power brokers of the category that we've known for so many years, didn't make a run. I mean, Matt Smith didn't make a run. Yes, he came up for first round and he let the clutch out, but he'd never made any kind of decent run. And since, you can't go a lap down in NHRA and then come back and try again, they were done for the day. So the fact that Karen and Tim hit it and were able to keep hitting it, good for them. But we'll find out a race or 2 down the road when everybody's had, a chance to get their legs under them a little bit, just where everybody stands. Karen could legitimately hold on to the record for 3 years.
Or more.
Yeah.
It was incredible. Matt did not run the Red Rocket, got new paint on it though. Look at that, Alan. I just thought that was spectacular. I wanted everybody to see Matt Smith prides himself on fast bikes, but also their showpieces. And this one, the Gold Leaf, the Candy, all the different stuff, many different levels and layers. It's not fully ready, but we got a sneak peek out there in the pit area, and I wanted to show it here on WFO. Amazing stuff. We'll see.
I really wonder if he was like staying up late Saturday night going, should I bring that bike out? Should I bring that bike out? Should I bring that bike out? And, and is he now thinking, I really should have brought that bike out? Or if he's going, Doug, this is the deal. I made the commitment. I'm going forward. Just, wait till next week and we'll find out.
Exactly. We will find out. But that's what we talked about, right? Let's see. David says, what about Brittany's 337? Yeah, and Caps won 336 and Iron Man looking bike. Yeah, it is very kind of Iron Man. Nikki is out there. Nikki Erickson says, way to go, Karen. Gainesville loves her. Multiple wins there. Yes, she does. She won there on the Geico bike. She has won Gainesville a lot. She considers it her second home track. I think she has 3. Obviously, Sonoma is number 1, but Gainesville is number 2, and she has been very successful there. Pro Modified, first shot of the season, and I gotta say, Chris Thorne came out of the box looking pretty strong. Those guys were amped up on the starting line. They were celebrating every time down. Chris had kind of had an incident out at the top end of Indy a couple of years back, maybe it was even last year, but big successful win for that team.
And Pro Mod, like Pro Stock Motorcycle, didn't have qualifying. They set the field based on what their points were from last year and came up for first round on Sunday morning. So again, some of the highly touted cars without a test run came up and took their best shot at it, didn't hit it, and didn't get a chance to try again. So congratulations to Chris. I'm not taking anything away from his team. They ran very well, and they we lined up whoever lined up next to us and won. But it was just kind of strange to not have qualifying, and what might have happened had everybody had a practice run or a couple of practice runs before they got into racing. Exactly.
No, it was fun across the board. Pro Modified was very fun. Everything was very fun, and it was the Gator Nationals. Amazing stuff. For instance, Factory Showdown. Start of the season, Constant Aviation Factory Stock Showdown. It was kind of a clinic by the Barton cars. Tater Troyer goes to his name is Anthony, guys, but he's got a potato farmer and they call him Tater. And you might notice that he put a WFO radio sticker on the back of his car, ran up against Lenny Lodig, and they're buddies, they're friends. They both went to Barton together to get their cars together. And now they were in the first final round against each other with Lenny Lodig coming out on top. I thought that was pretty cool. But the performances, 60 by Mark Powick, 183. Yep. Speaking of lowering the national record by over a tenth. Oh my goodness. Another WFO sticker. It's Barton's car right there. But I don't know how I don't know how Powak feels today, right? Like, showed the cards.
Well, when they came out and lit the thing up, and they had one qualifying run as opposed to some of the other classes, now they had a lot of cars here. So if you had tried to set that on points, it would have been very disappointing for a lot of guys, because we've made an investment. We've come out. We want to take on the season, and you're not letting me run because of what I did last year.
Right.
And so that's why it was imperative to get them on the racetrack, and we did on Saturday. They all knew going in it might be just one session. So when they came up loaded for it to make sure you didn't end up on the wrong side. And Mark Powak, man, what a run he made to put that thing in the number one spot. And 760, 183 miles an hour. And everybody knows the Dodge is not the most aerodynamic of the cars that are out there in the factory showdown. But, so before the weekend was over, Skillman went 62, and a number of the Barton cars were here last week. There were a number of the Barton cars that came to the Baby Gators, entered in comp and tested. So they did have at least a little bit more on-track data, even though the weather was completely different. But they had a chance to make a few runs at this racetrack before they got into eliminations. And I think that's a big part of why they did so well.
They did very well, and it was great to see. Very exciting to see Showdown back. I love those cars, and I know there's the whole 790s, 80, 780s. There was all that debate backing up the Fords, and NHRA is doing as good a job as is possible maintaining parity as best as they can. But man, I love seeing them go fast. I love seeing them go fast. That 760 was awesome. I know the chassis are only good to 750, and I know all of that. But man, Alan, those cars are so awesome when they run 770s. They're just spectacular. They defy logic is really what they do. It wasn't that long ago. I remember when Campanello won in 1986 in Pro Stock. I think he qualified with a 750. Right now there's a 3,550 pound small block car with power windows and a full dash, full interior running the same ET. That's insane. It's insane what's happening.
Well, 1986 was 36 years ago now. So
it's a long time. Yeah. I had to point out how old Costello is. It's fine. It's fine. All right. One more thing got to talk about happened on Monday. And I think this is a milestone. And it was the first ever national event win by Jasmine Salinas in Top Alcohol Dragster. And Nikki Shealy from NHRA social media and I were on the property, and we saw the final rolling out against Julie Natas. Funny Cars did not run. They're going to run somewhere down the road. You probably know where that is. They were Charlotte. Okay. They were still in the process of deciding, but Julie and Jasmine were going to run. And this was a big deal for Jasmine because this is the track where she had her crash. We ran down on the top end, did a bit for social media, but check this out. The emotion, the raw emotion of that victory for Mike, for Monica, for the whole family, and for Jasmine to come to the same track that was hairy. That you could see someone being apprehensive to go back. And not only did she come back, but she won it and kind of closed the circuit on that story. Amazing. And welcome to the winner's circle, Jasmine Salinas.
Yeah, the alcohol cars did an amazing job this weekend, with Julie running in the teens multiple times, and then she ended up smoking the tires in the final round. But, for Jasmine, it was almost destiny, right? I mean, when she came back and the McPhillips, Rich and Rich have had a really, really good race car this year. And so it just seemed like kind of poetic justice. She conquered the racetrack that tried to defeat her a year ago, but they had a good car. She did a nice job driving it. And that's not going to be the last time you see her in the winner's circle.
No doubt. No doubt. She is broken through now. And Rich and Rich Sr. were down there. Everybody was just so excited because they knew what it meant. They knew what it meant. And there's more to come out of the Salinas family and Jasmine Salinas. So very exciting. Alan, any final thoughts from you about the Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gator Nationals? We all know it was a great event. Maybe there's something that you, had on your mind.
Well, it was a great Sunday. I hate the fact that we didn't get the chance to run Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I really hate the fact that, the sportsman cars didn't get on racetrack until late Sunday and then had to come back and race on Monday. But Sunday was an epic day. I just wish we'd have been able to get the whole event in. And, I really think that we need to congratulate all of the sportsman winners, which not only includes Julie, but David Eaton, who won in comp with that A altered, that crazy thing. Pete Diagnolo, who won Superstock in a modified car. We need more old school modifieds, right? When you get a 67 Camaro modified. Jeff Strickland, who won again after he broke the top dragster. He said he almost loaded up and went home and thought, we'll hang around. And, driving Victor Cagnazzi's car. Also, the first time that we saw one of the 572 equipped 22 model Copo Camaros, at least on track. First time I'd seen it was here this weekend. So that was cool. Hugh Meeks and Sherman Adcock, who traveled together, raced in the final round. And Hugh was able to win that one. Kevin McNichol won Super Gas, which was his first. Wayne Landry. And I was arguing with Cody about this because Wayne Landry won Top Dragster. Okay. Wayne Landry has one other win in Top Dragster. It was 20 in Atlanta. What do you remember about 20 Atlanta?
They ran it in Gainesville?
They ran it in Gainesville. Because in 20, we ran the Sportsman for the Gator Nationals, and then COVID shut us down. So when we came back here later in the year to run the pro side of the Gator Nationals, they took the Sportsman entry list from Atlanta, and the Southern Nationals was run as part of this. So I was telling Cody, as far as I'm concerned, he's won the Gators twice. Cody says no, because the trophy doesn't say that. And then while we're like having a good-natured banter about this, Rick Green ruined everything when he pointed out that the finals didn't actually run here. The finals were run in Dallas.
Oh, my gosh.
So that ruined everything. But anyway, it was his second. Alan Firestone, who is part of the elite team, out of Oklahoma, won Top Sportsman. And there you have it. But those guys all did a great job after sitting around in the rain for 3 days, coming out, having one crack at the racetrack on Sunday, going straight into eliminations on Monday, and making it all worthwhile. But they will certainly have Gator Nationals memories and stories to tell forever. And I do want to throw out one other thing. Frank Aragona, multiple-time comp champion up in the Northeast, is dealing with some health issues right now. And Frank, I just want you to know we're all pulling for you. I mentioned something on the broadcast yesterday, and texted back and forth with him, and he said, I'm going to beat this thing, and appreciate all the good thoughts. So
absolutely. We are pulling for Frankie out there. And, that's when the drag racing community really comes together. That Kevin McNichol, he reached out to me. That's a Super Street car, right? He's like, I'm going Super Gas Racing. Do you know how much that car weighs?
I don't, but I know it's got an all Pontiac motor in it, which is pretty cool.
And it's a Pontiac. It's a pure Pontiac 3225. That's got to be one of the heaviest Super Gas winners in a long time. 3,200 pounds winning Super Gas. It's amazing he can get
probably
it.
Is, but he got it done. And it's a classic Firebird with a Pontiac engine in it. And how can you not love that?
I can't see. I can't understand how you could not love that. Maybe the Ford guys or the Mopar guys, but I don't see it. Alan, great job as usual. So what are you going to do? You going to be on the beach? What are you doing? What's this Daytona thing all about? Does Reinhardt
I don't know. It's kind of dreary now. The reason we haven't heard any cars on a racetrack behind me is because it started sprinkling again. So it's definitely not soaked, but it's kind of cloudy and dreary here. I'm not sure what it's like in Daytona, but when I started going to Daytona, it was because Leo Taher did it for a number of years, and he invited me over and over and over again. And I finally said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go. And he said, okay, just so you know. He said, I don't know what you're expecting out of this deal, but he said, I sleep late, lounge around, and drink a lot of beer. And I said, that's three of my best things. So that's what I'm planning to do for the next couple of days. It'll be my little spring break, and then it'll be time to hit it pretty hard. I am going to run by Giuseppe's, though, because it wouldn't be Daytona if you didn't go by Steel City Pizza and say hey to Pizza Joe.
Love it. Do it. Enjoy. And then I think next week the roles will be reversed. As I might be somewhere on the beach somewhere, but we'll definitely do WFO. Alan, great job. I had a lot of fun this past weekend. It was, it was a great event. The Gator Nationals always are. The weather, okay, that was the negative. There's going to be a little bit of a negative here or there, but we got through. The fans seemed happy, and we'll do it again next year.
Looking forward to it. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, Alan, take care. There he goes, the voice of the NHRA. Alan Reinhardt joins us each week on WFO Radio. Thanks to Alan for going out to the track and getting on the Wi-Fi and doing all that. Meanwhile, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School is out there with their dragster adventure. All right, guys, put some comments in the comment section. Got a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about the comments. If you didn't see the Tony Stewart interview right at the start of the show, you'll be able to go back and check it out. And I would appreciate if you would share that one because, Tony was super happy. Like that was a milestone, historic moment. And the Jasmine Salinas win was a historic moment. I believe she is going far in the sport of NHRA drag racing and maybe even Camping World drag racing at some point. So to be there, nearly exclusively, and you're going to see that interview on NHRA social media at some point. So go like and follow and all of those things, NHRA's feed. And we did do a couple of attention in the pits, and we tried to do our designated program, which is the new thing that we're doing. We connected with all 3 designated pair and stock eliminator, and all 3 were decided by red light. Can you believe that? Annoying. But it is. That's it. That's like the gambling nature of this deal. We're running around, we're interviewing people, and they all go red. But what are you going to do? I got some photos I'm going to share with everyone. Scott out there. Great show, Joe. Enjoyed Ignition also. Ignition was a lot of fun. The audio-only Ignition. I was going to post it on YouTube, and I elected to not for various reasons. But maybe in the future. TS wins. Yeah, it was big for Tony. Check out that interview. Keith Kaufman, who is a Patreon, by the way, for those of you who are thinking about joining the Patreon, he was out there in the Top Eliminator Club. Got to hang out with him for a bit. Gainesville Raceway did a great job with the conditions they were dealt with. I have never heard so many positive feedback stories at a drag race, especially about the customer service for the people that were getting stuck. Jerron is out there. Jerron, looking forward to Vegas. It's time to turn this season around. I'm going to start in Vegas. Good idea. We missed you out there, Jerron. I guess you hurt that car that you were going to run. That's unfortunate. But yeah, Vegas, baby. Vegas. That is the next race. Great job on the mic, Joe and Jason. Yeah, Jason Galvin posted a comment a little bit earlier and just about how many, I think I've lost it, but just how, here it is. Sunday was one of the best days of racing I recall in a long time. Yeah, since Arizona and Pomona. Packed house, numerous records, great storylines in the finals, upset, super fun. What more do you want? The fans were shocked. And, I don't want to use this opportunity to say to all those people who have been, trying to knock down the NHRA for the last 5 years how wrong they were. So I won't. But thank you, Mark, for that nice comment. And the return of Jason Logan, by the way. What did you think of the music? See, this is the thing. Behind the scenes, there's always effort going on. There's always work and progress and thoughts and concepts and ideas going on. And Jason Logan has been, on the back burner, waiting for the right opportunity. His home race, the Gator Nationals. He lives in Orlando to try this concept, to make it stadium-like. You don't go to an NFL game and have there be dead air, silence. So like just sitting in silence. That never happens, not even for a second. Doesn't happen. Hockey, basketball, baseball. There's never a time in a major league sport, pro level stuff, where you're sitting in silence for the most part. Never. And Alan Reinhardt is a wealth of information. And I like to think I've got some entertainment value to me. And Jason Galvin, very good, very good. But to tie it all together, Jason Logan was brought out there to focus on the musical entertainment, playing some beds and some music and get the crowd going and all that. I felt like it went off very well. And I'd love to see it happen as often as is possible. It was great. And so we had, driving home, I was feeling super great. I swung by Garlitz, the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony. That's another thing, guys. If you didn't listen to me and get yourself a ticket, which several people did from the show, thank you so much. We had a full room out there at the Hilton. It was great. Scotty Cannon, Tim Richards, Joe Amato did some inducting. It was a wild, fun event. It was great stuff. Monica says she loves the return of Jason Logan. All right, let me tell you about the people who make it possible, and then we'll get your final comments, thoughts on the Gator Nationals, and we'll look at some of my photos, because I took some photos, and I've got all these great photos on this mobile device, and who gets to see them? Nobody. Just me. Total Seal. TotalSeal.com. If you're building an engine, if you have an engine builder, if you're going through that process, recommend Total Seal. Talk to your guy. Maybe he's using the same technology he used 10 years ago because, well, it's always worked. Things have changed. You can make more power and it can last longer. TotalSeal.com. performance.com. Check them out. Hartford got off the schneid this weekend, got a round win. Way to go, Total Seal. Also, FTIperformance.com. Located in DeLand, Florida, performance racing transmissions and torque converters. The Donk Master was supposed to be out there hanging out with those guys, Sage, but that day it got rained out. But in the super fast donks, you know what a donk is, right? Like those Caprice cars with the giant wheels, like 22-inch rims that all, oh, by the way, they run like low sevens in the quarter mile. It's an amazing feat of engineering. What kind of transmissions do you think they have? Yeah, FTI. Exactly. Monster trucks, mega trucks, anything on the street you see with like massive horsepower, FTI Performance. Give them a call. Whether you see Troy Williams at the racetrack, definitely, if you see Troy, tell him you heard this, right? Oh, yeah, man, I'm seeing him. FTIperformance.com. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. And Marvin Rodak, Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com. Appreciate Marvin's got those new blends. Try out some coffee today. The WFO Radio Blend. All right, let me go into my archive of photographs from the weekend and see exactly what we've got. Oh, I put the merch link up in the chat section, everybody. Get some WFO merch. I think I saw that it's 40% off right now. Say what? They run sales all the time, guys. You get a hoodie for 40% off. Why would you not want that? And new designs coming soon. So it was very rainy, as you know. I showed these before, but it was very difficult to even drive. I drove through the most intense thunder shower on Wednesday to get there. I thought it was the worst. And Roger Richards is out there. Look at Roger helping out Phil Burgess of NHRA National Dragster. Poor Phil just turns off the road and sunk. And that's what everyone was talking about. They had tow trucks out there helping people out. There was a wonderful lady on the track walk. She told me that she got towed out and she offered them money and they said no. They said no, that they were just there. And if you look at the scene, it was devastating. It's a miracle that we got to race at all. Now, some of the big moments, talked a little bit about Jasmine and Mike Salinas having this moment. You'll see the interview at some point. Tears in her eyes, I guess. Great stuff. Doug Elwell took these photographs of Krista. And the story about Katie Butera having the car wrapped and Krista not knowing about it. That, to me, is what it's all about. And the injector had gold flake in it. You really don't see the animal prints on drag cars too often. And I, for one, liked it. Saw someone talking about Corey Mihalik. He ran an 18. That's a career best for Corey Mihalik, I would believe, with the fun that flip machine. That's a Doug Elwell shot, along with this one of Matt Hagan, who went on to win the race. But not only that, but going on before the race, there was also a media day, which was kind of cool. I got to see some of those shots taken. The wonderful and talented Lauren Adams taking shots of Matt Smith with all the cool lighting. I thought you guys would like to see that behind the scenes moment. And of course, Steve Johnson, he's a card. What was he doing there? Any guesses? I'll tell you. He was doing his best Han Solo Star Wars thing because of the lights. He just thought it was cool with the lights. And he acted out a whole scene from, I think it was Empire Strikes Back. I have the video. It will go out on our social media feed. I already showed you Matt Smith's new paint job, which was, I think, pretty spectacular. And what's this? This is from the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. That is Bruce Larson checking out the Rat Trap. Exactly. Pretty spectacular. We had such a great time, and I'm going to just tell you that you got to be there next year. Table sponsors are like $1,100 for 10 seats. It's a great thing. Pep Boys All-Star Call-Out. Brittany and Antron doing a stare down. And they made a wager. I tweeted it out on social media, kind of an exclusive wager to WFO. I don't know how many other people out there in the world know about it, but Brittany won. And so Antron is going to perform a Magic Mike dance for Brittany. He will be wearing a shirt, though. We have decided that. And I talked to Antron, when's that going to happen? And he says it's going to happen in Vegas. So Brittany scored the victory. And look at that. Look at how tough she looks. That was fun. Ma Nature, in the end, Ma Nature kind of put it on us there because we missed out on the call out. That would have been so great to see the second round call out, which Brittany actually has that. The whole deal happened inside the Top Eliminator Club. We brought everybody in there, and they did a great job. Brian Loans, the opening of the TV show, dude nails it. One take in front of 500 people. Amazing stuff. And I think to myself, boy, could I have nailed that in one take in front of 500 people? That would have been nerve-wracking. Like, here we go. Start of the show. Take one. Go. Guy nailed it. Here's another shot of Krista's car taken by me. Leopard print. That's not leopard, actually. That's cheetah. It makes sense. Here's the injector. They were so proud of it. And you know what? It looked great under the sun. Sparkling, very out of the ordinary. I love what they're doing. If only we could get Krista some money to go out there, because she's related to that Capco sphere. That's a fact. Cars can be fast. It can be maybe not exactly Trip Tatum fast, but they can run faster. They just need the money. Someone with a business needs to get smart and throw some cash at Krista Baldwin and let it go and let her go. Let her do the thing. You know, we're in a new world here where hopefully a world that is changing, where people are like, you know, I'm going to spend $50 on Facebook and I want to see $51 of return, and I want to be able to track every single thing. And now people are not into the idea of you being tracked all the time. Now that everybody knows about it, like the first time you type in the word towel into Facebook and the next 6 months you're getting ads for towels, right? Like, people are starting to hate that. What is another way to connect with people? Actually support things that they like drag racing. Shocking the way it has worked over all these years. You got a product, you want to advertise it to people who are really supportive of people who support things they like. Drag racing. Stop with the social media stuff. Michael Heiner, except for WFO, which is not technically a social media. It's a show, podcast, which is more effective than all that in terms of advertising. Michael Heiner rocking his WFO shirt out there, which was super cool. And again, the WFO on David Barton's car. Lenny Loddick goes on and wins. Pretty amazing. This was a moment that I thought was very important. I don't know if it made the TV show, because I think to some people it's controversial, but not to me. Not to me. Out in the world, when there is a fight between freedom and democracy versus authoritarian dictatorship, it's not political. It's not a question. And for Justin Ashley and for Phillips Connect to decide that they want to send that message, they want to send the message to the world like, hey, this is of importance to us. And the only reason we're drag racing is because we're free. And right now you got some craziness happening with a madman psychopath. I love that they did it. I love that they did it. Way to go, Justin. He doesn't have to do that. He could have easily just looked the other way, but he didn't. Good job, Justin. Quickest run in the history of pro stock. Mile per hour getting up there too. I had to snap a photograph. No wind light, but you can't always get the wind light. Erica missed it on that one. Doesn't matter. We saw history, and now EFI is quicker than carburetors. It took a long time. Another cool thing that happened. Garlits was out there with Steve Huff. Garlits put Steve Huff in the beam for an exhibition run of the Faster Than Cancer electric dragster. And Garlits and Huff are going to match race in electric dragsters. And Garlits shared the story with the audience out at the NHRA that he shared first with us, that his dad, his father, Garlits is 90. Garlits' dad worked for George Westinghouse. And if you have seen The Men Who Built America, you know that Westinghouse is kind of a big deal. And Garlits' dad reorganized one of the supply rooms. And Westinghouse is like, who did that? And Garlits' dad's like, I did. And he's like, you, here. And he paid for his education. And Garlits' dad was an electrical engineer, who worked on the project of things like the electric iron and the electric fan. Imagine the world without the electric fan. But think about that, right? Like, you take the electric fan for granted, except it was Big Daddy Don Garlits' dad who helped develop it. How amazing is that? There's Tater with the WFO radio sticker on the back. One of the things that I lament from the weekend, turns out Tater Troyer, Anthony Troyer, who lives in Florida, brought a bag of potatoes out to the track that I was supposed to take with me because I wanted to try the potatoes, even though I'm not really eating potatoes right now. But I would have had some of those. Like, I break the rules for a while. But thank you so much, Anthony Troyer, for running our WFO radio sticker. Dallas Glenn will be on tomorrow. Dallas is getting ready to run Roger Brogdon. Our winners, Trip Tatum in the media center. Matt Hagan looking a little surprised. Karen Stouffer and Dallas Glenn. These are not my best photographs. Unlike this one, Chris Thorne, which this is art right there. I feel like that's art. A Wally. Just sitting in the lanes after it's all over. You see such amazing things like Randy Ship's 60 Corvette. Don't you think that could be attention in the pits? I think maybe it could. And finally, a shout out to Brad Hardy, my buddy. Brad, his last race as NHRA starter. I don't know if this is like secret or whatever, but I'm telling you, he told me he's going to be at the track, but not as the start. He's going to have to do other things, get life off the road a little bit. Brad Hardy let me testing in Arizona, and it was an unbelievable adrenaline moment for me. To go to Salinas was in one lane, and Salinas, I guess it was for Salinas only. It wasn't two cars, it was one. But I got to start him. And it was Brad whose idea it was for me to do that. Thank you, Brad. And you've done a great job. Like, how many times has Brad's name gotten spoken out there? That means he's doing a great job, right? The only time, I think, was the crazy burn down, which, you know, he didn't shut him off, right? Like, other than that. All right, let's see what everybody's got to say. There's 20 comments or so. And then we'll get on out of here because I got to record with Dallas Glenn not long from now. All right, look at all these comments. You guys are amazing. Amazing. Yeah, this is too many comments. I'm going to go fast. All right. Great job on the Mike Joe and Jason. That's the last one I remember. Great seeing you this weekend, says Greg Lubin. Greg has got a WFO sticker on his car. Greg was part of our show on Designated. We followed him. He was first pair out. Unfortunately, turned on the big red evil eye. But he was trying, man. He was trying to win. And the light was different. It was very challenging for everybody. Way to go, Greg. Don't ever think I've seen so many Trip Zip lights. It was oodles of O's, man. Oodles of O's. Everybody was going Trip Zip. It was good. Jeremy, very historic weekend all around, and everyone was a part of it. I agree, Jeremy. It was awesome. This guy is a new fan. Had a great time at my second Gator Nationals. Even got to hold Dallas's Wally. Way to go. Racers are the best. They really are. Again, there's a fight. There's a fight in Ukraine right now between positivity and negativity. It's as simple as that, right? There's a fight in every one of our lives every single day between positivity and negativity. And there's a lot of people that for a long time, they were trying to be negative about drag racing, but now positivity is winning because there's so many good stories and everybody is working hard to make it so. And every driver, they are not going to say no unless someone's going to run away with it. Don't run away with the Wally, guys. Awesome to hear J-Lo is back. Well, J-Lo back. He was back. We'll see whatever happens. Surprised no one talked about John at the Hall. Yeah, that is. Loved the return of Jason Logan, says Monica. You gave me a goal of having the announcers actually say my name right. You said you guys won't say it right until I win, so get ready. What are you talking about, Jerron? Everybody says it right. Everybody says it right, except for Jason Galvin. Let's see. Keith, as always, saw some old friends, made some new ones, best part of the NHRA family. That's exactly what this show is all about, guys. It's a meeting place in between races. It is a meeting place between races. This show is a little bit different. The Ignition show, everything, it's a little looser. The interviews are a little looser. It's a different kind of show. This is where NHRA fans and friends and family and racers meet, hang out in between events. See what Art says. Joe, what a great show today. And the Hall of Fame show you were at. You did an awesome job. Oh, man, this is just too much positivity. I could not stop laughing for 2 days after that interview with Force. Yes. Scott, this is the best start of a race season I've seen in 53 years, says Scott Purley. How about that? That's what I'm talking about. I felt pretty good in 2019. And the Winter Nationals in Arizona was great in 2020. We all know what happened. Let's just keep our heads down, guys, and not start congratulating each other too much. Let's go to Vegas. Let's pack that house, guys. Pack the house. 4 Wide Vegas. Go to Vegas. You haven't been to Vegas in a long time. Not everybody's been there. Let's go to Vegas. Let's have breakfast at the Peppermill and watch 4 Wide drag racing and go spend some money at the Cosmo and have a good time and keep this thing going with great positive energy. How did Pops love his 40th year or something at the Gators with his boy Joe? He didn't, because he didn't go. We made 40 straight a few years ago, and then when the COVID thing happened, that was where his streak stopped. Mine continued. This week, he's not been feeling great. Dad's out there watching probably right now. He's just not feeling great. And 6 days of nonstop drag racing in rain and freezing cold, probably not the best idea for my 78-year-old dad. So he made the very intelligent decision to watch on NHRA.tv. And he did, and he felt like he was there, and he loves it, and it was great. Maybe next year, though. We have not given up. He will go back. Just the track is such a difficult situation, right? Where's he going to be? And is he, this is, anyway, I don't want to go there. Donk is an Impala. They're not all Impalas. That's not necessarily true from what I understand. They're not all Impalas. Or maybe they are. I don't know. Keith ran into Larry Dixon at the Garland's Museum, talked for a bit. It was packed. Yeah, I went by there on Monday. It was cool. Steve Johnson is a hoot. Yes, he is. He is a hoot. Love the photos. How about a WFO photo contest from the stand, says Stephen Glenn. How about that? I love that idea. I have a bunch of ideas for contests. You want to hear them? Ready? Okay. Stephen says the WFO photo contest from the grandstands. I love that. Let's do it. Starting when? Starting now. Okay. Email your photographs for submission, joe@wforadio.com. This will be for a prize yet to be determined, right? Photo contest, got to be from the stands. Cannot be, and you really shouldn't be a professional photographer. Way to go, Steve. We'll see if it happens. My other one, classic drag racing t-shirt contest. Like, who can rock the saltiest, most badass, old school drag racing t-shirt? Who owns that? That needs to be a WFO thing too. What do you got? And then we'll invite the person on, and they'll be like, "This is my shirt," and I'll be the judge. Who's got the classic, most awesome old school drag racing t-shirt? And think of what will come out, like, Lions and, OCIR and E-Town and Racers and Grumpy Jenkins. Like, who's going to go digging in their closets to get stuff? Like right over here, I've got in the bag a Miami Hollywood Speedway Citrus Nationals t-shirt. In the bag. Am I going to open the bag for the contest? Maybe I would. Keith says, wish they were able to finish the call-out race. Yeah, you got to go to Indy now. We're all going to Indy anyway for our big Patreon thing. So Patreons on WFO are all meeting up in Indy and Vegas too. Just another reason to go to Indy. What's going to happen with the call out in Vegas? Well, nothing, because it's going to be in Indy, from what I understand. Support WFO, become a Patreon member. This guy's right. Keith Kaufman. He's been a Patreon for a while, and I've gotten no negative feedback from any of our Patreons for the very limited stuff that they get. Oh, let me get Keith's comment off of there. Join us. You get Monday motivation, although you didn't this week. You get to watch and participate with the Ignition Show and a whole host of other wonderful things, right? Maybe even some swag if I ever get to the post office, right? What's going to happen with the call out, the Patreon member? Why don't you put your money where your mouth is? I don't know what that means. Maybe he's talking about me stepping up to support Krista Baldwin. Yeah, because there's not a lot of the money there, Facebook user. That's the thing. That's the thing. It's like everybody, we're trying to survive just like Krista is out here in the world. There's like MRN radio, and there's PRN, and there's CNN, and there's Fox, and there's WFO. Except WFO is the mom and pop store going up against the big, giant mega corporations funded by millions, and in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars. And WFO is just me, funded by me and the Patreons and our beloved sponsors like Total Seal and FTI and Marvin Rodak and whoever steps up to support this show. So don't be confused. We may look similar, but we're grinding it out just like everybody else. UA. That's Tater Troyer, which I'm going to go check out that potato farm. We already have a plan for it. Anybody out there interested in sponsoring a Super Comp Nova? LOL. Yeah, exactly. The Justin Ashley car was pure awesomeness. I agree. Let freedom ring. Awesome. Would love to see an electric class in the near future. It's coming. The faster than cancer dragster was awesome. F cancer. Don't know quit. Exactly. Who will be the new starter? They're sorting that out right now. It was an epic weekend, whether or not. Drag racing NHRA. Looking forward to next year's Gators with my sons and grandsons. Way to go, Bob. Exactly. Is that my neighbor? I think it is. The atmosphere there is unlike anywhere. Gator Nationals. You know, the U.S. Nationals is right in the middle of the year. The season's been going for so long. Gator Nationals is an opening event for the East Coast. Steve Gonzalez doesn't like the idea of an electric class. I think they should run in comp, honestly. And I think there should be combustible hydrogen also. If you listen to the Hidden Horsepower with Mike Copeland, I think we should be doing combustible hydrogen in comp. Great weekend. Love the show. JP Gutierrez, who's the new starter now then? Well, we can just have to wait. Hey, Joe, I'm not a guy, but a big fan. Well, it's Facebook user. Like, that's why you got to watch on YouTube. WFO Radio TV on YouTube. I put the link in the chat section early on in the show. I can see all the YouTube comments, but the ones that come out of the Facebook group, I can't. Went to Columbus in the 70s. Gary Carey says he thinks. Thanks, Joe. I have to go check out Ignition. I had to bounce out early. Oh, it was so great. Proud of Dougie Foley. Me too. Tommy Noodles. What's up, Tommy? Yeah, my dad, he was very sad, very upset that he missed the Gator Nationals again. We're going to get him back there, though, next year. Just, the weather was not conducive. Like, there's one thing that he hates in the world, and it's freezing cold. That's why he got out of Jersey. And he's going to go up there and freeze? No. Later, Mike. I'd be fat man in a little shirt. I was happy to see the support of the fans. Crazy weather. My son Zane is 9 years old. It was his 9th Gator Nationals. I love this sport. Way to go, Mitchell. That's it. Spend your cash. How did I know? It was my ESPN. Just posted a few pics from the stands. Pomona's Scorcher Nationals from last year. Yeah, man. Let's take it. Joe at WFOradio.com. Anybody can email me. Vegas, baby. Let's do it. Ready for Vegas 4 wide. And then whatever that means. And all right, now I'm out of here, guys. I'm out. Appreciate all of you. Had a great time. Spent so much time with the fans out there. I said it last week. There's always something to do at a drag strip. And you might not be watching racing, but there's somebody you can go talk to. There's somebody you can go learn from. There's something you can go check out and see, whether it be in our Lucas Oil Series pit or the Camping World pit. There's always something. There will be times where you go back and you'll think about the rain races, and the majority of the time is spent learning about other people and learning from other people, because there's time to do it, which is unlike a normal weekend, which is rip and run and go and all of that. But hey, if you went to the Garlot's Hall of Fame, the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, thank you for that. Appreciate you. And if you were out there and you said, what's up? Excellent. Go to the WFO store on the website, WFOradio.com. You can find out how to get some free stickers. And I think the merch store is having a 40% off right now. Glad to see Jason Logan back. Logan Mania, baby. Yeah, he doesn't have his Twitter handle anymore. McNeil Freeman, #1 qualifier in Stock Eliminator with the taxi. Way to go, McNeil. I'm sorry I didn't get by to see you, but I'm proud of you, bud. Taxi's fast. Hey, McNeil, if you ever go to sell the taxi, please let me know. Maybe I buy the taxi, and I have a 14-second Stock Eliminator car that runs V-Stock. McNeil's never selling the taxi. That's never going to happen, but maybe it would. Now I've mentioned it. Don't forget me, McNeil. Don't forget me. All right, guys, it was an amazing race. It was a great race. Tomorrow, you're going to see Dallas Glenn on WFO. You're going to see Dallas Glenn on WFO, but it's not going to be live because I'm going to be in Las Vegas for March Madness. WFO.